Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast on building next gen AI solution. Before starting today's podcast, let me remind you we had a last episode in which we discussed about the vector DB. And I must compliment Rahul on that day did an excellent job. And I think we both are able to describe the vector DB most fundamental way. And I hope that audience, if you are really interested in vector DB, then I will add that podcast link in this video description here, and you must go and watch it. All right, let's start for today's podcast. I'm your host Abinash Mishra, and today we are discussing about the LangChain, a framework that is quickly become essential for developers and leaders working with large language models. Have you struggled with the complexity of large model calls or found that many times your chatbots lose the track of conversational history? Very annoying, right? So on that situation, what you will do? So for in today's discussion, we will definitely going to know about all these issues. And to discuss for this scenario, I again welcome Mr. Rahul today, who is definitely tested such kind of waters extensively. So welcome, Rahul. Thanks so much for joining.
Yeah, thank you, Abinash. Thank you so much for having me here again. So regarding vector database, if any of our audience is having any kind of problem or challenge, if they have any questions, and if some of my assistance or some of my inputs are needed, I would be more than happy to drop in a comment. Just let me know if there is any comment which needs my attention. I would be ready to lend a hand. As it is said in the generative AI space, it is attention is all. So
you need, right? All right. So let's jump right into it then. Let's discuss about the LangChain today, right? So why LangChain? Let's in this segment. This is our first segment of our podcast, and in this segment, we will try to understand why. So Rahul, before we will go directly to the topic, can you explain for our audience especially into two category by dividing the two category? Like first thing is what problem is solving by LangChain, and also why LangChain became so popular so quickly.
yeah, so to put it simply, why LangChain? Because I want to be less frustrated.
Right.
So so it is something like this. We are having large language model. The large language model, which is kind of a kernel for generative AI kind of solutions. The basic purpose of a large language model or a generative AI ecosystem is primarily to predict. If I take a very simplistic explanation, it is to predict the next word. So whatever I write, whatever I keep on writing, what is a stochastic value of the next word? That is what I'm trying to predict. Right?
Yes.
My story ends there. But real world does not work in this manner. So if I am doing a technology demonstrator that I have worked on n number of things, and this particular robot or this particular piece of code gives me a word in response to an unrelated, coherent but unrelated word in response, this should be fine.
Yes.
But when it comes to this generative AI ecosystem, we are trying to solve a problem. The problem is to make the machine respond to me in a real world kind of situation.
Yes.
Now, when we are talking about a real world situation, when we are interacting, I don't say, I just don't utter a word based on whatever you have said,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
I have to remember the context. I have to remember, so the conversation, the context. For example, let's say if I'm talking about LangChain, and while talking about LangChain, if I give an example of let's say uh, of dogs, we don't start discussing about dogs, what kind of diseases dogs have. The
Mm.
context is that we are discussing LangChain.
Mm.
We made a detour towards dog, and then
Mm.
we have to come back to the topic,
Mm.
right?
Right.
Also, if I have given a certain example, for example, let's say if I say that I have very little experience in, or I have very low knowledge on, let's say, for example, relational databases for
Mm.
that.
Just take up example. Yeah.
So just for an example,
Yeah. Yeah.
now your next question cannot be, what do you say about relational database?
Mm.
As a conversational model, you need to remember that I have just told a little while back that I don't know about relational database, or I'm not very
Mm.
comfortable. And you keep
Mm.
on insisting, no, no, I want to know about the relational database. So,
Mm.
so this is no intelligence.
Yes.
Intelligence is all about a context, and
Mm.
then you should have a memory, and
Mm.
you should be able to build on top of what has been said.
Mm.
So now, when we are doing all this, we need to have uh, and then we need to have other kind of ecosystem that is built in. For example, what would be the access control?
Mm.
How you would be taking information from other APIs.
Mm.
So this all, if I'm making an entire ecosystem, an entire solution, I
Mm.
need to have n number of things which are outside the purview of generative AI.
Mm.
But you need to have a kind of interaction.
Yes.
So let's say if I'm talking about, and then I need to have some additional information from one of my APIs. For
Mm.
example, I want to know about the recent stock price, and then
Mm.
build on top of it.
Mm.
Now, getting information from an external source, or from an internal database, uh, and then generate some kind of response on top of it, is not generative AI's core part. It is not
Yeah.
a part of LLM.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
need to have this information. So whenever
Mm.
I'm making an application, all the time I would be making all of this.
Mm.
Third aspect is that today, if I'm making an application, all the individual components need to be plug and play.
Mm.
So if I want to remove my LLM, let's say there is an LLM upgrade, in a current scenario, I need to have just a plug and play. I need to change two lines of code, change my login ID, my password, or whatever, and then it should be ready to go.
Mm.
So all of this is a part of some kind of ecosystem. Now this
Mm.
ecosystem is LangChain, and the
Mm.
name LangChain has come because it helps you to create a chain. It
Mm.
remembers you. So you
Mm.
make a comment, you make a call, you get a response. On top of that response, you can pass that response to the next set of interaction.
Mm.
You you can make a call to an API, you bring back, you handle the API, you manage the errors, you figure out, and then you can build on like an application. So LangChain is that framework which is stitching all of this together.
Mm.
So it's more like if we say in a normal parlance, it would be more like the Lego blocks of this AI, generative AI ecosystem, where you have pre-built components. Some of them fit together depending on the kind of APIs which are exposed by the LangChain framework. You just bring those particular items, snap them together, and then you can orchestrate this entire integration of this generative AI ecosystem.
So
So
nicely
that
you put all together, Rahul. Actually, you bring two very important points here. One is like it is so easy that you parallelly compared it with Lego blocks. Like you just put it in together and make something great. And then another thing is it is work like a orchestrator. It orchestrates the complete ecosystem for you for your business cases, right? That's a great
yeah,
analogy. Yeah. So in simple term, it is basically a streamlining the complete workflow for you, right?
correct,
Yeah.
correct,
So
correct.
let's move to the next segment where we will try to understand what I mean how parts. So how part meaning what are the core component need to understand LangChain overview in totality, right? The core components LangChain have and how they are helpful for building the large. The core components LangChain have and how they are language model apps.
Yeah, so let us think it this way, rather than telling in a descriptive manner in a lecture mode. Let us think about this way. I am having a model. Given certain amount of words, it can predict the next word. So it is having some kind of intelligence. So this would be a model, right? What do I do out of this model? One thing is that I should have an API to call this model, get the response, and be done with it. So this calling the model or plugging in the model should be a basic part of the. Now to have this model, I should have some kind of authentication mechanism, because this model can be my inbuilt model, which is running on my hardware, or this could be a cloud-based one.
Yes.
So I need to have some kind of interactability with the model. If it is having some authentication and authorization module, then I need to have this that this is my API key, this is my secret key, or some kind of mechanism to authenticate me to hook onto this model.
Yes, yes.
Then the interface, which because different models would be taking input in different formats.
Yeah,
So
right.
kind of mechanism so that in a uniform way, I write an API which will call the model, get the response. So this would be model integration would be a part of LangChain.
Yes, yes.
So this is one.
Yes.
Then since my model is capable of responding me multiple times, but not able to have its own memory, I need to have a memory.
Yes, yes.
Why? So that I can store the previous information.
Yes, yes.
Now I'm having one response, I'm having another response. How do I create a chain out of it? So how do we pass the information from one response to the next response?
Yes, yes, yes.
Third is I should have the ability to interact with other ecosystem. For example, different kind of API calls.
Yes, yes, yes. Third party API.
Now, third part is API calls. So I'm having model, I'm having memory, I'm having chains, I'm having API calls.
Yes.
Now, these API calls are basically, or then I should have some mechanism to create a workflow kind of system.
Yes, yes.
Would be typically called in this ecosystem, these are known as agents. So a lot of things they are moving into a sphere which is known as agentic AI, and that is where you kind of make your different components of generative AI to work in synchrony and be a kind of a workflow where you take help of a single or multiple models and create a workflow out of it.
Yes.
So this is one. Then you have a number of tools which can be built in, kind of a plugin kind of architecture. And most important of all this is our beloved vector store.
Yes, yes. So here comes the vector story actually, which I already met. Yeah.
Because everyone has a very limited amount of memory. You cannot have infinite amount of memory. So it always translates into, after a while, the system will start becoming slower and slower because you cannot have all the context in memory at one moment of time. Let's say I'm having a large language model which can understand language. But let's say if I have to get the information from n number of books, for example, if I'm doing a research, I'm having books. I can plug all the 10 books into the memory and to figure out what is going on. If let's say if I say that I want to know about let's say C++, for example, this entire book has to be put in memory, processed out of it.
Yes.
So how do I handle this? I tokenize this, I vectorize this entire book, put it into some vector store, so that my response is based on the retrieval of the information, which is a vectorized form of this book. So that is like the basic, building blocks of LangChain. To give some details into, for example, if we are talking about the first component, which is model, this LangChain has built-in support for nearly all the models, whether they are running on your local one like Llama, entire Llama, or if it is on the cloud like OpenAI or these open sources ones like
Hugging Face, Hugging Face and other,
put on AWS like Anthropic Cloud.
Anthropic Cloud. Correct.
So all of them, they are having support. You just write 2 lines of code and you are good to go. Chains are very simple. They have a sequential chain and a simple chain mechanism. So a number of are also provided. How you want to plug them, and just like the normal, just like an intuitive way, how you arrange a particular workflow, you will have prompt creation. You will query your model. You will get the response. You will do a post processing. You will pass it on to the next chain. So this is a way in which it would be. Maybe you can provide a
yes. Definitely, Rahul. We will provide the complete working code for explaining all these major component which you mentioned already, so that audience can get the idea. And I will put some code snippet on this video also, and maybe we will provide the complete article link also in the video description.
Yeah, and with the LangChain, there is in addition to the normal sequential way, there are a lot of cases where there are async operations.
Yes, you are right. Especially in case of, if I would like to mention the pointer, especially in case of calling of a tools, you might need a synchronous approach over there, so that you cannot wait for the completion of your tools execution. Right.
And because this is very distributed kind of environment, the internet itself is distributed, right? So it is very distributed kind of environment. So what would happen is that you would be having the units which might just request, and then the other part might require a lot of time to process it. So immediate response might not be available. So that is one area where the async operations are important. And a lot of these complex workflows within LangChain, we are having LangChain expression language, LCEL. So the LangChain expression language actually simplifies this complex workflow into
very easy and understandable to
understand.
Yes, yes, yes.
So then there are these memory concepts, because unless and until we are having memory, as we discussed earlier,
Mm,
uh, you cannot have the preservation of context. And if there is no context, that means there is no intelligence, there is no near human-like interaction. It would be very much uh, animated or robot-like response. Previous days robot-like response, not modern day
mm,
robot. And
yeah.
then these agents and tools, and
Mm,
we already talked about the vector store and RAG, which is like, in my opinion, the entire application. So there is a transition which is going on from the way we are doing it now to the generative AI space.
mm,
So there is always a conduit which translates. For example, there were server-based architecture which moved into cloud-based architecture.
mm,
It's a conduit. The conduit was the uh, compute engines and
mm,
storage. So in a similar way, when we are moving from the modern day paradigm to the generative AI paradigm, the conduit would be vector stores and
mm,
RAG, because that is what is common between what we want to do. Other things are plug and play. This is the core, because
mm,
everything would move into the vectorized store, and this will facilitate the easy transition or actual transition to the world of generative AI or
mm,
LLMs.
mm. Welcome back. So let's continue our discussion again, because until now, what we covered, let me recap first. Until now, we discussed about the introduction of LangChain, what exactly why it is required. And then we also, our expert Rahul also explained what are the core component of LangChain, which is helpful to design the complete large language model apps for our audience. All right, so let's move on. One more component, there is one more component, I believe, that is LangSmith, which is also a very important to use it whenever you are designing or when we are developing any application using the Lang chain. That is called LangSmith.
Yeah.
So, Rahul, can you put little bit more light on this LangSmith and how it is useful for our audience?
Yeah. Actually, LangSmith was not needed because we were writing Hello World so far.
Yes, yes,
So till you are writing POC, LangSmith is not needed.
yes.
Like in any production level system, we need to have see whenever we are writing a plain simple static code, we don't need any kind of unit tests, we don't need any kind of monitoring, we don't need
Very
any
true.
kind of
Very true.
observability.
Mm,
But the moment we go into production, and if these three are missing, uh, you tend to become very religious, because the system is going to break anytime.
right,
So
right.
that is the story with LangSmith also. So LangSmith is another framework which provides you the capabilities of observability
Mm,
and monitoring, debugging. So these kind of things which elevate the LangChain platform from being uh, what we call as from development to production. This is the platform which enables you to do that.
mm,
So long as we are in prototype mode, I mean, it is a good practice to use LangSmith even at a prototype state. But
mm.
when you move to production, either you use LangSmith, or if you are not using LangSmith, you end up writing something to enable, observability, the monitoring, testing. So all of this is provided out of box using this LangSmith framework.
Exactly, Rahul.
So
So we can say that it is a one tool which is very, very friendly to at least developer community who is developer who wants to develop their application with
correct.
all the monitoring and observability, right? Because that is what.
Yeah, because
Mm,
otherwise you end up writing these kind of agents for I mean, for every project, you will end up writing the same stuff.
Exactly. I mean, anyway, I mean, either you use LangSmith or you write your own some tools which
Yeah.
is help this in this
And the
direction.
trouble with this generative AI ecosystem is that it is changing very fast.
Mm-hmm.
It is changing very fast. It requires huge amount of and since there are a lot of components which are hidden. So if we are writing some kind of observability or monitoring framework, uh, you have to take care of a lot of things. And there is every possibility of you missing out something or the other. And uh, if you are changing your stuff every a few days or a few months or things are getting advanced, there is a lot of effort which will be wasted on this observability and monitoring framework. So
Mm-hmm.
and if you are not able to observe your system, if you are not able to document what kind of responses are coming, what is the uh, so if you do not know that, you will not be able to optimize the chains.
Yes, yes. In
And
fact, I would say I would just wanted to add one point here that if you don't observe your system well, probably you are, I mean, you are asking troubles to come to your place
yeah,
direct. Yeah, right.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm,
So if we are not able to observe it, because these are very costly systems, any
mm,
LLM framework, any generative AI solution is actually very, very compute intensive. So if
mm.
we are not having any kind of observability built in, you will keep on there is a meme around cloud that I was
Yes.
a billionaire and then I left my
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
so I'm bankrupt now.
Right.
So very, I mean, if cloud was making a millionaire a bankrupt, then this generative AI is going to make a billionaire a bankrupt.
Right.
So
Exactly. Exactly.
you need to have
Yes, yes. Something you need, which is definitely required to monitor or observe your application, right? Exactly. So, um, I think our audience, the category of audience who are from business people, they wanted to know now that can we give any good practical example we realized in our career that how good is how exactly required thing is LangChain framework for this LLM application development. Can you put one example of real world example of that which you experienced in your career? Yeah.
yeah. So I can give you a couple of examples.
Hmm.
So one example was regarding an ERP, a customer who deals in who makes the ERP as a service.
Hmm.
And what they wanted was that lot of their people were they, I mean, the end customers, they were unable to create their own dashboards.
Hmm.
So what they wanted was that every time the customer would raise a ticket to them asking for that this is the kind of dashboard, this is the data I want, and that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So um, so as a solution, what was proposed here was that we designed the system, and it was like a normal language command would be issued to the customer, and based on that a graph would be quickly created.
Hmm.
Now, here the human value comes in. Like when this was exposed to the end customer, what happened was that the end customer started using it like a playground.
Hmm.
This started bleeding the platform very badly.
Hmm.
So what they ended up doing was that we created a framework where the customer will request that this is what I want, and using as a workflow, using the same thing, we would deliver it out in form of a dashboard and provide them the link.
Hmm.
So kind of a hybrid approach.
Yes, yes.
The ideal approach would be that you leave it to the customer, but then this ERP solution maker is a very small player and they would not
Hmm.
go with this kind of they would not be bled so much. So
Hmm.
again, this is the story of that it is very important to have a monitoring and observability platform in place.
Yes, yes. Otherwise,
But otherwise,
hmm.
otherwise your the token cost is
Hmm.
going to be exceeding your platform cost.
Hmm.
So
Exactly.
The
So,
second example that I can give is uh, I was providing a consultancy for a fintech startup. So,
hmm,
uh, they were also grappling with the situation that very typically what happens is in a fintech environment is that lot of people whom you are advising,
hmm,
whom we are providing the service, they are not so well versed. So the level of financial literacy would be
very limited.
from zero to infinity.
Hmm,
So there are a lot of customer support issues which come in, and when there is a large amount of customer response, the human has only two hands and one brain. So at one moment of time, you cannot process uh, a number of responses.
right, right.
So and in a lot of cases, the textual detail would be different, but the problem would be same.
Exactly.
So let's say if you have messed up something, or if you have given some kind of ambiguous detail about certain product, you will start getting lot of queries which will ask in a very rephrased manner that what is this? How do I do this? Kind of.
Hmm, hmm,
Now, what happens is if you are having two people and you are getting 2,000 queries per week,
hmm,
you have an option that you increase the number of people.
hmm,
If you put very smart people doing this kind of stuff, they would get bored, they would not be able to handle, and
hmm,
they would be spending their time doing useless stuff when they should be concentrating on the real cases which actually deserve their attention. So here also, what we ended up making for them was we used RAG, we used LangChain, and
hmm,
for vector store we used Pinecone, which is a very popular vector database. Um, Again, our last podcast. So,
hmm, hmm,
so now here also what we did was that we created their IRG, which is the resolution guide,
hmm,
and the resolution guide was uploaded into this vector database. And using RAG capabilities, this thing would uh, respond in a very similar to normal uh, uh, ticket resolution system. You
hmm,
send a, it tries to process, find a typical response, give it
hmm,
back to you. If you are not happy, you raise it to the human.
hmm,
Period.
hmm,
Now, what uh, they ended up was that in good number of cases,
hmm,
so only 8 to 10% of the queries they got to the real people, to the human.
hmm.
Rest all queries were actually processed by this interface itself.
Oh, great. So almost 90% is resolved by.
Almost 90% is resolved. People are happy.
Hmm,
And because of that, what started happening was that the ticket resolution time for people
hmm.
came down to as low as 40%.
Oh,
So,
great, great, great.
so if I'm a person, I'm writing a query, I'm
Hmm,
trying to explain, a
hmm,
human will always kind of confirm back, they will try to understand and all that. But
hmm.
here, since it is a computer system, it will
System.
try to give you a response which this person will be very easily able to respond, no, no, I don't want this.
Hmm,
And after a couple of attempts, this one
hmm,
says, see, I'm a computer, I try
hmm,
to understand you, now I'm
hmm.
not able to figure out what you are trying to say, let me escalate this to my boss,
Yes,
which is a
yes.
human.
Hmm,
Period.
hmm,
So the interaction time, so per user interaction time from, imagine it from an end customer perspective, he is getting 40% lesser time.
hmm,
From the this fintech startup perspective, the employee perspective, if earlier they had to hire 10 people to support this, and all these 10 people would be really frustrated
hmm.
because they are intelligent people trying to solve a very rudimentary problem
Yes,
because
yes.
of some textual change or something.
Hmm,
So now, if in place of like earlier, if there were 10 people, now there are two people. So they are
hmm,
less overloaded, doing
hmm,
quality work.
hmm.
So everyone one is happy.
Exactly. Very impressive. Very impressive. And in fact, I would just wanted to put one small point here is that for business people, it is a real bottom line impact for your business. So this is
Correct.
a very, very welcoming
And there is
outcome.
one more factor. See, uh, let's say I'll give you an example for again for business people. Let's
Hmm.
say if you want to have one person available 24 by 7,
Hmm.
you have to hire 5 people,
Exactly. To cover the
right?
24/7. Right. Right.
To,
Right.
to cover 24 by 7, you don't need to have 3 people sitting for
Hmm.
8 hours each. You end
Hmm.
up hiring 5 people because
Yes.
there
Yes.
are leaves, there are vacations, there
Yes.
are a number of things, and
Hmm.
then you have to manage all of them,
Hmm.
right? So you
Hmm.
need to have 5 people who will sit attending the calls and one person who will manage them.
Hmm.
And so this is a huge load. And
Hmm.
then if there is one person, if you are getting one call, a person cannot handle more than one call at one moment of time.
Exactly.
A computer, on the other hand, can take multiple calls,
Mm.
if not
So
if not
otherwise
thousands of
also,
calls.
right.
Yeah, we
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to a small point. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Actually, I just wanted to, in case of human, the scaling is also very difficult because you have to hire
Very, very
people, then
correct.
give them knowledge transfer, and then they will actively participate in your
Correct.
resolution. But in
Correct.
this system, you just have to
Yeah.
put lot many system very quickly, and which
Yes.
will
So
deliver result immediately, right?
correct.
Right, right.
So typically, what happens is there are two approaches to this problem for business people. What
Hmm.
they do is they create a, SLA based system where I raise a ticket. I say, okay, I want to get this done. How do I do it? And I
Hmm.
get a response. We'll get back to you in 48 hours. Now that is one approach where you say, I will get back to you in 48 hours. In 48 hours, you figure out how to address this situation.
Hmm.
This situation needs only 5 minutes of effort, but then
Hmm.
you don't know what kind of work, I mean, the flow of queries is coming in. So this
Hmm.
is a very frustrating thing.
Hmm.
I want to know how to raise my account limits, and you are saying 48 hours. I have to make a payment now, man.
Right,
And you're
right.
saying 48 hours. Go. So it is very frustrating for the user,
End user, yes. Customer, for
right?
customer, it is frustrating.
So
Exactly.
that is one approach. The
Hmm.
second approach is that you have a real time thing, but then you say all our customers service agents are busy,
Busy
so you
ends.
wait for infinite period of time.
You
Now
are raising
imagine if
actually the problem of end user, not end user, me also facing the same problem.
correct, correct, and
Yeah,
and then what happens is that this person who has called up,
right.
either he will get that customer service agent will attend you in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever.
Hmm.
At some moment of time, he doesn't even get a estimated time when he will be attended.
Hmm.
So it is very frustrating. In comparison, if it is a program, let's say even if my problem is not solved,
Hmm.
even if you give me a SLA of 48 hours,
Hmm.
there is one attempt. So let's say if 90% of my customers, their problem is solved. So
Hmm.
90% are happier lot.
Hmm.
They called up, they got an immediate response.
Hmm.
For rest of them, I said, okay, I am having a 48 hours time window, and within 48 hours, I will try to solve.
Hmm.
Within this 48 hours, I am having lot many free people, the free employees who can actually address this problem much quicker
Hmm.
because of two reasons. One, because of this computer interaction, lot more information has already been gathered.
Yes,
So
yes.
when I'm interacting with this automated ticket resolution agent,
Hmm.
I give an text. This system actually tries to cross question me and
Hmm.
tries to get more information. So
Hmm.
even if I'm not, if the computer is not able to solve my problem, if the agent is not able to solve my problem, when the
Hmm.
human agent sees this, he has much more information lying with him.
Hmm.
So rather than 48 hours, it could be within a very short period of time, as soon as the person hits the office.
Hmm.
So that
Exactly.
way it is big.
Right, right. You rightly mentioned, and in fact, you have put not only one example, many such good example, which is very impressive at all. And now I just wanted to put one point, and in fact, I asked you to one point to put one point, which is little bit like it's not a silver bullet, right? It is not like LangChain also not a one solution which fits for all scenarios. So, can you
Correct.
put any cautionary tales in your experience which is also need to be addressed here for our audience?
Yeah, so like every system, it has a breaking limit. So at the end of the day, beyond the LangChain interaction at the backend, you are
Hmm.
having uh, an LLM model. There has to be some kind of a throttling or logic checks.
Hmm.
So, uh, for example, when it comes to normal, you know, an API interaction,
Hmm.
APIs are relatively very lightweight things.
Hmm.
So you can have a small computer, maybe even a Raspberry Pi can scale up to hundreds of requests per second, because
Hmm.
what you are trying to get from the backend is very very light. But
Hmm.
when it comes to these generative AI kind of models, you need
Hmm.
to have huge infrastructure at the backend. So if
Hmm.
since LangChain has provided you a tool, uh,
Hmm.
you cannot just go around bombarding or leaving things open.
Hmm.
Like I gave you an example with that case where this ERP customers were given the portal access to
Hmm.
have their own dashboard,
Yes, yes.
and people started playing with it
Right, right.
because
Yeah,
they don't
that
have to
that
do any
that
kind of effort.
that example exactly fits in this case, like which you're discussing.
Yeah,
Right, right.
because even if you have to make a pivot chart, you have to
Hmm.
do some effort. You have to here
Exactly, exactly.
you don't have to even drag a, you don't have to create an x-axis and a y-axis. All you have
Hmm.
to say is you do it like this,
Hmm.
and the backend works sometime. It pops you up with this, and then you say, can I have this in different color?
Hmm.
And it reworks, it changes all the color for you, and then the person is like, so it becomes kind of a play for people,
Yes. So
and
we
that is
can.
costly.
Yes, yes. So we might say that balance is the key here. We have to
Balance it.
balance the things
Correct.
as per the
Correct.
requirement, right?
Yeah.
All right. So let's move to the next segment now. The segment is called strategic advice, limitation, and alternatives. So speaking of scaling thoroughly, let's zoom out strategically. What should engineering leader consider before adopting LangChain?
Uh, See, uh, what I would uh, like to highlight is that for any engineering leader, it is important to understand that this ecosystem is fast evolving. So you
Exactly.
need to have an ultra rapid prototyping and
Hmm.
very very flexible integration.
Hmm. Correct. Correct. Correct.
So what are your data sources at this moment of time, and what would be what they would be tomorrow
Hmm.
is kind of very dynamic. You cannot
Hmm.
blame that
Hmm.
that my data sources change and that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So uh, just like in previous times, in the times of books and the pen and paper kind of arrangement, any
Hmm.
kind of protocol change used to take years.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All that changed to maybe months when it came to these integrated server kind of
Hmm.
computerized kind of setup. Now it is in weeks. What you are trying to get from this source or from that source, the entire thing is going to change very very rapidly.
Hmm.
So because of that, let's say if you are having very flexible and very rapid prototyping, but when it comes to the scaling part,
Hmm.
because this system is very very complex and very costly in terms of processing,
Hmm.
so the each API would have a cost associated with it.
Exactly. Hmm.
So if we are having a very complex workflow which you haven't thought about,
Hmm.
which actually uh, which actually maybe passes a very 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 large context to the LLM, or
Hmm.
it tries to extract a very large response. So for
Hmm.
example, let's say if I am asking a question that uh, let's say what is the capital of India, the
Hmm.
answer would be New Delhi. And let's say if I'm trying to validate uh, an objective type answer, only New Delhi is enough,
Yes.
right? I
Mm.
need not, and in contrast, if my context is something like give me a 1,000 word description of the answers, and I'm
Mm.
asking just the question, what is the capital of New
Capital
Delhi?
of New Delhi. I'm
So
in
what will
India.
happen is I will get 1,000 word response, and I would be extracting one text out of it.
Mm.
So every time I would be spending
Lots,
1,000
lots of yeah.
tokens, or it's not 1,000, but it is 750 or something of that sort for AI context.
Hmm.
But still, some large number, whereas I can settle for very, very small value. So
Exactly.
one is regarding money, because
Hmm.
that's very
That
important, because you
that's
start
very
bleeding at a very fast pace.
very fast. Hmm.
Second thing is that the uh, security is very important.
Hmm.
The third thing I would say that with so much data which is exposed to these distributed systems, we do not know from where the data is going to get leaked,
Yes,
and privacy
is the
is
major
kind of
concern.
very, very important.
Hmm. Correct. Correct.
So, uh, so like LangChain itself provides some basic tools to mask the data, like PIA masking and other.
Hmm. Hmm.
But it is very important that we do a very comprehensive security audit and place the security protocols. Security not only in terms of the cyber security aspect, but also in terms of the data security
Data
aspect.
security aspect. Yes. Yes.
Because when we are passing some information, we are actually, maybe we inadvertently we end up releasing a lot of information to the third parties. And since this is a kind of a chaining kind of model, we
Hmm.
might end up releasing a lot of information. We do not know where we have ended up sprinkled our information back to.
Hmm.
So that way, it is very important to have the security and privacy in place.
Hmm.
And uh, so, like you asked about the alternatives. So LangChain is not the only kid on the block.
Hmm.
There are multiple.
Yes.
I mean, it is obvious that there would be multiple ones. LangChain is
Hmm.
most popular, but then
Llama
there,
index like
yeah,
semantic kernel and other.
correct, correct. Yeah,
Uh,
semantic kernel is there, or
hmm.
uh,
You can create your own custom built solution also in
we can create our own custom solution if it better suits our
our use.
needs.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
because sometimes there might be some, let's say a banking customer might be there who would say that none of my data goes out of my firewall.
Hmm.
So in those cases, you might have to create your own solution.
Hmm.
So it needs to be evaluated on a case-to-case basis. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, for a general case, LangChain is the most popular and
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
and
you nicely put like even it requires a time to learn, but
right.
this learning has a value for them also,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, exactly.
correct, correct.
Mm.
And then there is another factor which is about the complexity of chains and the agents.
Mm.
Now, here the problem with this ecosystem is that the different components are actually owned and operated by different vendors.
Right, right, exactly.
So, let's say if I'm using OpenAI as an API,
Mm.
there would be a lock-in risk involved. They
Mm.
might change their API pattern. They might have some change of usage policy. Now, if
Mm.
I'm having an entire big chain of very, very complex structure,
Mm.
I need to keep on upgrading with all that. Although
Mm.
in a way, LangChain helps me with that. If there is a change in the API call pattern or whatever, the moment I upgrade my LangChain, the things should fall in place.
Mm.
Then if I'm making very, very complex chaining, if one component gets fundamentally altered, then my entire
chain will get
chain.
impacted.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that way, LangChain has a disadvantage, but then
Right.
there is an
One
advantage
additional
also.
point, if I would like to mention, then I also see this thing like sometime abstraction is little problematic also to understand
Correct.
the underlying things
Correct.
how it is working. Like
Correct.
how lot many things are abstracted here due to LangChain. So
Right.
sometime it may be, I mean, lots of issues is wrapped around abstraction actually. So yeah.
Yeah, you are right. So
Mm.
there is an advantage also, but because of this abstraction, it is easier to replace the component also because it's a Lego
Exactly.
block.
Mm.
If
Right.
uh, if
Right.
OpenAPI starts creating trouble, you just
You can start with
deploy an Llama 3 on your GPU and you start rolling. You expose it as an API there.
exactly. So
So that bit
yeah.
is advantageous also.
Mhm. And you also want to suggest like our audience, like there is a backup plan. They must understand that similar kind of like llama index and
Correct.
semantic kernel. These two are alternative to LangChain
Yeah,
already
to
available.
LangChain. Yeah,
Yes, yes,
correct.
yes.
Correct. But as such, I have used and somehow I would strongly recommend that rather than jumping into those alternatives,
Right.
we should go ahead with LangChain first because
Mm,
it is much easier,
mm,
much better documented,
mm,
and the resources would be available. So, I mean, there is no problem in starting with the other side, but uh, it is always better to start from where you will find the maximum resources. So
yes.
once you have a little bit of, you are able to navigate through, then you can explore other ones. And if you find the other one better, you can
R-
always go.
Exactly. So my point is only to mention here that doing the analysis of different similar kind of framework is always better to understand. I mean, use
Correct,
any one framework better way, best possible way, right?
correct,
Because they
correct,
have to
correct,
know that what are the advantage and disadvantage, where we will get
correct.
better solution like that.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
like there is this Copilot, right? The
yeah,
Visual Studio plugin where which suggests code and all.
okay.
So
Uh,
somehow I did not find it interesting as such.
mhm,
So I use an open source which is Llama Coder.
mm,
It is very light,
mm,
and since I can code,
mm,
so even if it gives me a little substandard result, it is okay for me
mm,
because I can always correct it.
correct,
So
correct.
different people have different kind of they have preferences. Uh, may not be the best product is most liked product by everyone. You
Mm,
might have a different preference. I might have a different preference as such. Uh,
exactly, exactly. So I think we have covered lots of ground now by now, and we tried to give the very basic overview in this podcast today. And if I have to summarize key takeaway for today's episode, then I can mention these points. Like first is LangChain simplified building LLM apps by modularizing workflows, just like you mentioned, like it is work like a Lego blocks. The second point, if I would mention that it has a core features like selection of models, then creating a chains which is similar to workflow in your requirement, business requirement. Then another key component is memory, which helps you to navigate your past discussion with your customer in your use case scenario in whatever you are doing currently. And then next thing you already explained about the agents and tools, which is very helpful to automate or complete workflow, business workflow for our end user or customer. Then you also explained how this also helping to interact with the large unstructured data set by using the vector stores and creating a knowledge base for our enterprise using the RAG. So you already you explained in your discussion. You also explained here that how LangSmith is helping developer and business community to make monitored system which is monitored well and which is easy to observe. So those things you already explained. You also explained here what are the practical applications like cutting ticket response time drastically, which you explained very well. I think 40% of reduction you have mentioned. You also mentioned that how bottom line is getting impacted, like increased for any business, right? Then you also mentioned how what kind of cautions and complexity, cost, security, and privacy consideration each and everyone, whenever they're deciding to use LangChain, has to consider. Then you also shared your information about what are the alternative frameworks to LangChain available, where anybody can go and create a contrasting understanding for their architectural decisions. So this much information we have shared in today's podcast, and I really, really think that Rahul, you have explained very well, very well. I think it's a very easy after this podcast. I believe that for our audience, it is very easy. And then apart from this, as you mentioned that we both are very good in tech and code also. So we will share some articles with the complete ecosystem, complete hands-on instruction, so that anybody who is interested in using LangChain and developing their own business case application, they can go through that article and create their own article. I believe that today you wanted to give the challenge to our audience also. So please go ahead, Rahul.
Yeah, so the thing is that if you do not practice, you forget. And
Yes,
that's the simple story. So in Sanskrit, there is a shlok which says, Anabhyasam Visham Vidya. So whatever you have learned, if you are not practicing, is poison to the knowledge. So it is simple. Just don't wait. Just experiment. Write some hello world, not so hello world, world is not hello, whatever.
Right.
I mean, first thing is that the engineering or technology effort is all about some amount of theory and a lot of practice, a lot of failures. That is this is all about. And then maybe if the journey is shared by many people, you learn from each other's mistake. So as we were discussing before this session, this week we can go ahead, all the audience, you can build a simple LangChain based bot so that everybody is doing the same stuff. Their failures can be replicated, other people can provide a helping hand, and you can share the experiences, good, bad, ugly, where I'm stuck, please help me, all sorts of things. Only thing is that I would request everyone to use this hashtag. Maybe Abinash, you can put this on, as a text in the description. LangChain struggles as a hashtag, so
yes,
that from
I
any
definitely
channel we will be able to pull that out and like either extend help or.
Yes, definitely. I will put this
So
tag.
maybe if we do something of the sort, it would be a good learning experience, and I would say let's learn together.
All right. So love that challenge, Rahul. You have given the challenge to our audience, and I hope that audiences will use this challenge and learn new things here with this episode. And also, listeners, don't forget next episode. We are coming with the next hacking LangChain to create a meme generated AI. Next session is going to be much better than this session in this LangChain only. So Rahul, at the end, I definitely want to come. I believe that you are also coming in the next session. And thanks again for your wisdom and time in today's session.
Yeah, thank you, Abinash. Thanks for having me here. Thank you.
All right. So to our audience, thanks for tuning in. I am Abinash Mishra, reminding you to stay curious, experiment fearlessly, and build something remarkable. Catch you next time. Bye. Take care, guys.